So, good welcome to everybody. It's welcome to Close Up with Karin. Close Up with Karin is the show for business owners and people who want to know about marketing. It gives you the inside information that you can learn from with real insights from real businesses. I'm Karin and I run KF Marketing. You can find me at KF Marketing UK on Facebook and Instagram and on LinkedIn or on my website www.kfmarketing.co.uk. So let's move on to the topic to today. You want to learn about writing books? You are in the right place. Today, I am chatting with E A Clarke, who is a writer, publisher, novelist of two books, Lay Me to Rest and No Bird Shall Sing. And the scoop is she's just got another contract for two more books. So we really have got the inside knowledge today, and we're talking to a real expert. Now, I've known Liz for a long time. We went to school together, which was quite a long time ago, wasn't it, Liz?
It
Um,
certainly was,
yeah,
yes.
we
Yeah.
met in the Midlands, and we were really lucky actually because we had some amazing English teachers. I mean, they were really excellent, and I think we were both in the drama club. We spent many weekends doing plays and rehearsals. We were very lucky, and I did the lighting because actually I couldn't face being on stage. And I think you were a bit braver than me, weren't you? You did some acting.
I did a little bit. I had a couple of speaking parts, but for the most part, I sort of gravitated towards being one of the crowd. Really, I do have a vague recollection of we did a production of The Boyfriend,
Yes, that was the
and
best one, wasn't it? That
yeah,
really was great.
we actually performed it at Warwick Arts Centre.
Mm.
And that was the horror I have. The memory of that is that I've got some of the dance steps wrong, and I remember scanning the audience for Mr. Nurser, who was the producer, and thinking, has he
He's going to
noticed
kill you. Yeah, yeah.
something wrong?
Yeah. See, I think I was safe there because I did the lighting, so I was stuck in the box at the back, so it didn't really matter if I made too much of a mistake. Nobody noticed. Anyway, actually, yeah, one of the things I did want to ask you was, thinking about English and drama at school. They were great fun, like we've just said. And are those, did they inspire you to go into writing?
I think they did. I mean, I'd always, even from being quite small, I'd always quite enjoyed writing stories and reading fiction. I was sort of a bit of a bookworm as a young child, and then as I got older, I think I was more. I was a daydreamer because I do remember that we had a class discussion once, and we were sort of having to describe our classmates, and somebody actually said of me, I was the one that I'd always get caught out gazing out of the window if the teacher asked me a question. So it stood me in good stead as far as the writing is concerned. Didn't do my physics any favors though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I was the same with physics, actually. I think the
Yeah.
teacher despaired of us both.
But
So,
I did. Sorry, I was just going to say I think I just sort of thought of writing as a career option. Possibly, I think earlier on, being a bit, I don't know, thought it might be quite hip to be a journalist, and then
mhm,
decided I'd probably prefer to write something fictional rather than factual. So,
interesting.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did always consider writing as
So,
a career
so then
option.
what got you into writing novels then?
Just that I enjoyed writing stories. I did start writing short stories and poetry. I think when my kids were sort of a little bit, because my kids are all grown up now and I'm a grandma as well. So it's when my kids had sort of gone past the stage where they needed my full attention, I started writing short stories. And then I had a bit of success. I did entered a couple of competitions. Stratford on Avon do a literary festival,
Yeah.
and I'd entered that a few times, and I had some minor success, just sort of as runner-up, and that spurred me on. And I thought, oh, shall I write something a bit longer? So the first thing I actually tried to write was a children's book, which was a children's ghost story.
Mm.
And then I discovered it's actually not as easy to break into children's fiction as you might
Yeah.
think. It seems to be quite
It's
quite hard. Yeah.
children's literature, full stops, a really hard field to get into, isn't it? It's very competitive.
Yes. Yeah. They're quite sort of specific about what they think will
Mm.
appeal as well. So I think what I'd written they thought was perhaps a little bit old-fashioned for what children today might
Right.
enjoy. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
interesting.
I decided then I'd actually try my hand at adult fiction instead. So that was what I did. And again, because I'm a bit I don't know, not morbid exactly, but I've always had an interest in ghosts and supernatural and that sort of thing. And I thought, I'll try and write a ghost story. So that was the first thing I had to go at, and that was Lay Me to Rest.
Yeah, brilliant, fascinating. And how did you feel when it was published?
I was really quite shocked, actually, to be honest. I've never, you write these things and you're sitting there writing, and then it's from it actually translating to a Word document to actually appearing,
in print.
And it's the fact that it's been through an editor and everything is quite exciting. So
Yeah.
it was nice.
Yeah, I've been on the other side of it. I mean, it's interesting. I worked in publishing for very many years. I worked in the marketing and editorial department, so I know what it's like from the other side of it, actually. And it is quite something to actually get a book published by a publishing company. I think people think it's very, very easy nowadays, but it really isn't.
No, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, I submitted to a few before I'd actually found somebody that was, and I was surprised then. I think you're not prepared for it, because you've sort of get used to people rejecting things. You're not really expecting somebody to come and say, oh yes, we like this. So it was almost a bit of an anticlimax, ridiculously. You would think I'd be all over the moon. It's like, oh, somebody actually wants this. So it was strange.
I mean, thinking about the two books, what was the hardest thing you found when you're writing them? Was it the actual writing, or was it the after you'd finished it and then finding you have to submit to so many publishers and waiting for responses?
That's where the slog begins, is when you actually start submitting to people, and then you start to get to the point where you think, oh, nobody's ever going to want this, which is, it's not a nice feeling. You think, oh, I think as well though, when you've been accepted and it sort of validates what you're doing, you think, well, perhaps I'm not as bad as I thought.
Sure.
So that's nice, because quite often when you're writing, you're sitting there and you're thinking, is anybody ever going to read this, or is it just going to stay on my computer forevermore, and no one's ever going to read it properly. So that's it's nice to have it confirmed. You think, well, perhaps you are on the right lines after all, when you thought perhaps you might as well give up and just go back to the day job.
Oh dear. So are there any famous writers that you have been inspired by, or people that you enjoy reading?
I particularly at the moment, because I'm sort of gravitating towards psychological thrillers at the moment. I particularly like the books of Lisa Jewell. I think she's very good. I like Ruth Ware. I think she's good. Lucy Atkins is another one. She's done a couple that have really been quite. And Lucy Atkins, because a couple of hers, although the psychological thrillers, there's a hint at I don't think it necessarily is paranormal, but I think there's a hint at that, and I quite like that there's this. Oh, could there be something else going on behind everything? It's that sort of
fascinating. So if I had to say, ask you to pick two books to read, would that be one of them? Her novels?
I think Lisa Jewell's probably, of the two, for two books for her. I think she did a book called Then She Was Gone, which was really quite harrowing in places, and it was a psychological thriller. But there are also, I think, with Lisa Jewell, there's a very human element to her narrative as well, and there's parts there that are actually quite moving. Apart from being a bit, there's a bit creepy, very, very twisty, but also moving. And I think that's nice to have. I like character-driven novels. I think that's, it's nice to have a twist, but I think you've got to be invested in the characters when you're reading. You've got to actually, be rooting for them or care about them.
Sure. It's that kind of engagement, isn't it, really?
Yes. You feel you get to know them, and it's almost like when you're sorry to finish the book, because you're sort of almost like parting with friends. That's how it feels.
Which is how we end up getting book series, isn't it? Yes, you get the demand for the next one. So
definitely.
So where did you start? I mean, one day you just kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to write a book.
I don't think I thought I'm going to write a book. I think I thought, right, I'm going to start a story here and just start and see where it takes me. And that was pretty much how I don't think I ever had any idea of how many words there were going to be there, or where it was going. That's quite nice when you get to that, where it's sort of like, oh, I didn't know I was going to go down that avenue. It's that sort of thing. Your imagination starts to run riot a bit, and that's
Mm.
nice. But it's just escapism. It is
Yeah.
a nice yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering then, how do you go about working out characters? I mean, is there a sort of secret to how you do it, or do you just imagine them and it takes you to various places?
I think you have an idea. You start with a seed, and you have a thought of, right, there's this person, and you have to imagine what their backstory is. You sort of think what's gone on in their lives, what's happening in their lives currently,
Yeah.
and then you think how there might be an incident that can impact what's happening to them, or something that's happened in their past that could be affecting the way they behave now, and just explore. Start, as I say, with the seed of an idea of a person, and then just sort of see where that takes you. When you need lots of time to just sort of sit and, as I
Mm.
said before, gaze out of windows and imagine and think, oh yes, this could be a possible scenario.
Yeah.
Or read widely in the genre. If you have a chosen genre, read widely in that genre, and don't obviously steal ideas, but you can sort of think, oh yes, that can sort of send you off on a tangent, and give you ideas of things to write yourself. Or even watch TV
Yeah.
programs or films, and that can spark ideas as well.
Mm.
And keep a pad and pen handy, so if you think of anything, get it down, because
Yeah.
that's fatal. You think of something, that's a brilliant idea, and then 2 hours later you've been distracted by doing the dinner and think, oh, I've forgotten now, and that's, you've had it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's true of any writing actually, isn't it? No matter what
Yes.
you're doing, if you don't get it down while you're thinking of it, something inspires you and you move on to the next thing, then you come back to it and you've kind of got half the story, not the full story. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've been asking everybody on this series, because we're obviously in lockdown at the moment, is lockdown has brought challenges for every business and every person, every freelancer. What's been the biggest challenge for you, as a writer?
I think the thing is, it sort of, it affects your mood. Obviously,
Mm.
being stuck in the same four walls, and everything's one day. It's like Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Yeah.
One day is very much the same as the next, and it's trying to maintain some sort of creativity and motivation.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. Some days you can sit and ideas will flow, and other days I can sort of sit there and want to write something that I can't think of what to say here. It's just I'm staring at the screen and nothing's coming to
Yeah.
me. And I think when you feel like that, you've got to go away and give yourself a break, and sort of try and do something else. And then sometimes, more often than not, in the middle of the night when it's extremely inconvenient, an idea will then start to form. But yeah, it's just been, it's not a nice situation being, just being stuck in, is it? It's
Yeah. Sure.
you're not seeing the same parts of the
Yeah. I
world
mean,
that you would normally see. And
so I find that of social media, because I do a lot of social media writing, I do a lot of marketing writing, and I go out, I walk the dog, and I take my inspiration from things that are around me. If you're not doing that, as a kind of writer that does the sort of stuff you're doing, that must be really, really quite difficult, because I can imagine you can get like writer's block really, really
yes,
easily.
yes, definitely. And takes it back to what I was saying about reading.
Mm.
And this is, for me, has been the wonder of the Kindle, because
Yep.
it's just sort of like, I fancy reading this, it's there instantly. And that's what I like about, and it doesn't take up lots and lots of room on your shelves. And I can,
Yes.
my Kindle library is expanding rapidly by the day, but
Yeah.
there's always something I think, oh, I must read that looks really good.
Yeah.
And it's so good to have books to, I think that's been a godsend, I think, probably
Mm.
for a lot of people as
Yeah.
well. If you can't get out, you've got the instantaneous thing of being able to access books,
Yeah. Yeah.
and films and television. I think, they've been an absolute boon in this
Yeah. Sure.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to move on to is, you've kind of covered how to start writing, what to do, have pens and paper with you all the time, and notepads and note things down. Um, so once people have got going, say they got to the stage like they finished writing what they think, hey, brilliant book. Can you give anybody advice about how the hell do you get published? I mean, where on earth do you start with that?
Right. You've got to choose your choose the publishers that you're targeting first. See what have a look at their books, have a look at their backlist, see what type of work they're producing, what they're publishing. Try and read, as I said, read widely yourself, and then you can go to them, because they will quite often, they'll ask for marketing strategies, and they might say, where know your market, where do you see your book in this market, which other authors can you draw comparisons with, you know, where would your book sit well on
so that
shelf?
is a really key point, actually, and that's something that I talk to people about when we're doing marketing and social media all the time, which is know your audience. You have to know who you're talking to.
Definitely.
And I think it's quite often overlooked by people, actually, because they get so caught up in what they do, they forget who they're talking to.
Yes, definitely. So you look at, you know, if you're writing commercial fiction, make sure you're targeting somebody that's publishing commercial fiction, not somebody who wants literary fiction. See what sort of word counts they're looking at. If you're producing a novella, there might be certain publishers that will you know, readily take on novellas. The majority, if you're looking at full-length fiction, you will have a starting point of about 60,000 words.
Wow, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it, when you say it like that?
It's generally a fairly minimum requirement for the majority. If you're looking at sort of like what the big five, which is sort of like HarperCollins, Penguin, Hachette, Simon and Schuster, Macmillan, all of those, they're all sort of on a similar playing field from that point of view. So you're looking at, you know, make sure you've got a polished article to submit as well. You've got to check again, check for grammar.
Do you know, that is a really important point, because I know from sitting on the other side of the desk with, you know, editors, if text's not proofread properly, there are spelling mistakes in it, you know, the grammar's not quite up to par, that is the first thing that will knock it out. Really will. And
Definitely.
I think the other thing is, you know, not to underestimate how many manuscripts get put across those kinds of people's desks every single week. It's lots. It really is lots.
It is, yes. It really it's, you know, you're sort of looking at thousands. So it's
kind of, how do you stand out, you know? How do you make yourself stand out?
They've got, a lot of them have open submissions. I mean, I'm not currently agented. So if you want to get an agent, the advantage of an agent obviously will take a fair chunk of your royalties. But the advantage of an agent is that they will be able to pitch to the big five and in the main imprints, because obviously each of the big five have got their smaller imprints. They've got lots of different ones that cover the different genres.
And I guess also the agent's already got the relationship with them, which is another thing about getting your foot in the door.
Absolutely. And then they're in a position then to negotiate and say, look, this is really good. And sometimes you hear of these sort of wars going on between publishing houses, you know, vying for this particular book.
Absolutely.
And they can command, you know, I mean, that's rare, and you're incredibly lucky if that happens, but then they can command huge fees, huge advances. But an awful lot of the time you're not looking at, even if you get an advance, it's not a big advance. If you're looking at digital first, they don't generally give you an advance. The advantage of the digital first is that many of those will accept unsolicited manuscripts, but you don't get the advances, although they do tend to pay higher royalty rates. So you might get something like a 60-40 split royalties in favor of the publisher, or even 50-50. So, you know, it's not bad, but you've obviously got to sell quite a lot of books before you start making money, serious books.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Publishing's a really tough business, isn't it? Really tough. So I'm just curious, how did you feel when you actually got a copy of your book in your hands?
It's a strange feeling, really strange feeling. I mean, the first book was only an ebook, so I didn't actually have a physical book. So the second one was a paperback, and it is a strange feeling. It's
you actually see yourself in print.
Yeah.
Do you kind of think, I did that?
Yes, it's but you know, you've got to feel, well, I've achieved something. You have.
Well, do you know, I remember when you told us, you know, you told all of us that you'd published your first book, and it was just like, yay, good for you, well done.
Oh, thank you.
No, it was very, very impressive. It's not an easy thing to do, it really isn't. So thank you for talking to us about it. Now, Liz, I'm just going to come to the end of this now. if people want to find out a bit more about you, and I don't know if you want to talk about, your future publishing quickly, and just tell us, we had a bit of a scoop earlier, didn't we? So, there were a
Yeah.
couple of things that I don't know whether you want to talk about that, if you want to let people know what's in the pipeline.
I can let you. I'm not supposed to make an official announcement as yet.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I can tell you that it will be a psychological thriller that's supposed to be coming out in September, hopefully, all being well.
Excellent.
It's still being polished, so there isn't an actual cover reveal that's taken place as yet.
Yeah.
So I imagine there will be an announcement from the publisher in the next
Yeah.
couple of months.
So if people want to find out about, what you've done already, how do they get hold of you? Where are your books? Tell us a bit more about how they can get in touch with you if they want to.
Well, my first book is still available as an ebook, and that's mainly available. It'll be on Amazon and Kobo.
And just give us the titles of those again.
The first one's called Lay Me to Rest, and that's the ebook.
Yeah.
And the second one was called And No Birds Shall Sing, but that's actually the rights have reverted to me for that now.
Okay.
So that's no longer currently available.
Okay.
But I'm hoping at some point I might revisit it and have a rejig and a re-edit and perhaps publish it elsewhere at a later date. But the next one, so both of those were ghost stories.
Yep.
And the one that will be coming out later this year is a psychological thriller.
Cool.
And I can tell you it will be published under the name of Untitled Clarke.
Excellent.
So it's not under E A Clarke. So E A Clarke will be the ghost story, and the Untitled Clarke will be the psychological thriller. So
yeah, brilliant. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, it's really, really excellent that you're published. That's quite impressive.
Thank you.
Right, so Liz, thank you so much for sharing all of your kind of insights about writing and dealing with publishers, and how you think about things. It's really, really helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this will really benefit from having heard you. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, it's lovely to talk to you, and I hope I've been some help. I think there's so much that I've learned, to be honest, since becoming a published author. I think it's a massive learning curve. You don't realise what's going on in the background, all the book promotion, the marketing. The marketing is such a big side of things.
Yeah,
it really is. And I didn't realise that. I mean, when I first signed my first contract and was told I needed to set up a Twitter account, and it was like hands up in horror, because I'd never used Twitter, didn't know what I was supposed to do with it or anything. So
I think, that's really an important point, actually. And just before we wrap up, let's touch on that quickly, because I've been in the marketing departments of publishers for a very long time, for years and years and years, and I think it's interesting because a lot of authors think that the marketing department do it all for you. And that's not the case. It really isn't.
Definitely not. The onus is very much on you as an author these days. I know. I mean, they do their bit, definitely, but you are expected to
do it as well,
to get out there and promote yourself as a brand, as opposed to just the book itself.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's quite a difficult mind shift, actually, when you're just used to thinking about writing to actually then becoming a brand. It's really quite hard work.
Yeah, it is.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. Right, so that's it for this issue of Close Up with Karin. We've been talking to E A Clarke, who is soon to be published as Untitled Clarke with her next psychological thriller. Close Up with Karin is the show for business owners and people who want to know about marketing. It gives you the inside information with real tips that you can learn from and insights for your own business. I'm Karin. I run KF Marketing. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at KF Marketing UK, or on my website www.kfmarketing.co.uk. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.